Hey everybody, Joan Zodianz here, and welcome back to another episode of Spiritual Zundayz. This week, I'm going to heavily prepare you for the Mercury Retrograde that is going to hit next week. So, you're going to want to listen in on this and take some notes. All right, first things first. Nothing much is changing this week astrologically other than the sun is shifting from Libra into Scorpio. So everything else still remains the same. I'm telling you, the universe is really prepping us for this major transition. Mercury going into retrograde in Scorpio is going to be no joke. And it's in different houses for different zodiac signs. So that's why I wanted to take my time and give you guys the horoscope that you need. um a couple things that are gonna happen. You're either making a spiritual transformation, a financial transformation, or a relationship transformation by next week. If you didn't listen to my podcast from last week, then you're a little bit behind, but you can make the appropriate changes to prepare yourself for everything that will come. So let's talk a little bit about Mercury and what it means to be in retrograde. All right, let me educate you guys first so that you understand where all this energy is coming from. When a planet is going into retrograde, we have to keep in mind that when it orbits the sun, it's a different speed. When it rotates on its axis, it's also a different speed, okay? It's not a perfect circle. And that's why when it starts rotating on its own axis in a slower way or in an odd way, because they have their own type of orbits and rotations, right? It starts to look like it's going backward, whereas all the rest of the planets are kind of in their normal, rotational axis orbit, whatever you want to call it. Okay, I'm not an astronomer. I know a little bit about astronomy, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, I work for NASA, because I don't. Anyways, long story short, when we have a retrograde in Mercury influencing our ways of communicating, all ways of communicating, all forms of communication, and how we perceive things, right? It hits us in our mental space. Right now, it's in Scorpio, Scorpio being a very intuitive, psychic zodiac sign, right? A very emotional, very sensitive, and very internal type of zodiac sign. Now, when it goes into retrograde, right, we are going to see the negative sides of Scorpio in Mercury, meaning you're going to get a lot of people who become jealous, right? Become possessive. They start to compare themselves. All of their negative thoughts start to rise to the surface. It gets really intense with these thoughts too, because people can take it out on themselves during this time, right? It's definitely a time to transform oneself internally, and this is where most people, I feel, are going to have the most difficult time, is the emotional intensity of every situation. So you may find that people will overreact. Remember, Scorpio is a fixed water sign, water influencing our emotions. Okay, so people aren't going to be as flexible or as fluid because Scorpio is a fixed sign. So they're a little bit more narrow minded, right? They're a little bit more negative, but we're going to see more of that during that retrograde. All right. Now we have to keep in mind of other planets that, other outer planets that are in uh, space. So let's talk a little bit about that. Now, Pluto and Saturn are still in Capricorn. Jupiter is also still in Sagittarius. All right. Now, Neptune and Uranus, they're still in retrograde. Neptune being in Taurus, okay? And I'm sorry, Neptune being in Pisces and Uranus being in Taurus right now, still in retrograde. What all of this means for all of us is that we are going to go through either a spiritual transformation right now or going through a financial transformation right now. We want to find the deeper meaning to things. This is also a time to make a spiritual connection to your money, okay? Because Pluto and Saturn are both in Capricorn, we will be thinking about money and how to expand our environment, how to expand ourselves as people. How can we grow more abundantly, right? If that's even a thing. Am I saying that correctly? How can we attract abundance? How can we manifest things into the physical realm? Okay. And because Jupiter is in Sagittarius right now, we are trying to justify spirituality and justify how we can take from the spiritual realm and pull it into the physical realm. Okay. It's the planet of philosophy. It's the planet of big ideas. It's the planet of Sagittarius because it's its ruling planet. And right now it is in Sagittarius. So keep in mind that these planets are, well, especially Jupiter and Sagittarius is more of a rebellious thinker. And it's not compatible with Scorpio, right? So it's not going to be compatible with Mercury in Scorpio during a retrograde. These are things that you have to think about. These planets are creating tension against one another. Does that make sense? So we will be challenged to really dig deep in ourselves emotionally, mentally, intuitively, and try to put all of these things together during this retrograde. And that's why I'm letting you guys know it's important for you to kind of prepare yourself before it hits. And this can apply mostly to your money, okay? But also to your direct environment, especially people that aren't supposed to be there. I have been deleting, unfriending, unfollowing a bunch of people who pretend to be my friends, who pretend to be my family members, anything. I've been doing a lot of that kind of work before this retrograde because I know that this retrograde is going to take them out regardless if I want them there or not. It's just going to sweep them away. And they can't be on this ship with me. The way that I see, me going forward, I just don't think that everybody needs to be a part of my journey. This is what you need to think about in yourself too. Not everybody needs to be on that boat with you. They can't be on that boat with you. If anything, they're just adding weight to it. And you could be in that position too, because remember, Pluto and Saturn being in Capricorn, it means that this also affects how we see family and tradition, okay? Family traditions, if you want to put it together, but culture as well. Like, how are we limiting ourselves when it comes to money? Are we adding too much pressure to succeed right now? I mean, it's not in retrograde. Those planets aren't in retrograde anymore. So we should feel a little bit relieved from it. But when that Mercury retrograde hits, it's really going to hit us where it really hurts. And that has a lot to do with family. Okay? Like, are we still going to be emotionally attached to people that were not meant to be in their life path anymore, or they're not meant to be in our life path anymore? So I've been really clearing my personal pages from that. I encourage you, advise you to do the same because as humans, we're just attaching ourselves to anybody. You know what I mean? We make a connection from 10 years ago, we still hold on to them. Why? They're not going to magically come around and be your friend again. Are you waiting to be this, rich and famous person and then they come around and they want to be your fake ass friend? Hmm. Same with your family members. I really thought about it. I was like, I don't want to give any people the privilege to say later on in life because they never believed in me, okay? They never believed in me. And I don't want them to come around later in my life and be like, oh, I know her. You knew me like 10, 15 years ago, bitch. Calm the fuck down. Calm your titties down. You don't know me anymore. And that's why I'm suggesting for you guys to do the same, to really look at your page of friends and to really think about why you're still holding on to people. Remember, you have to make space for new people or new opportunities to come in. Now, this will give you a spiritual transformation at the same time because you're starting to see things differently, okay? And you're going to have to deal with all these past wounds or these emotional attachments or whatever have you in a spiritual type of way. I really don't see how people can deal with emotional situations without being spiritual. So if you know a better way of doing it, then, by all means share it. But in all reality, I feel like it feels so much better when you have a spiritual meaning behind things because you're elevating yourselves. You're elevating your light, you're elevating your energy, you're elevating your space when you make space. And This is also a good time to practice some rituals for yourself, some spiritual rituals of like saging or smudging or whatever have you. This weekend I cleaned the shit out of my house. Like mopped it. I did everything with the intent to clear space, with the intent to get rid of this, negative energy or these emotional, the emotional intensity of everything, just to clear space. So I suggest you guys do that as well. Clearing your sacred space is going to be so important, because when the retrograde hits, you will see these things more clearly, and it's going to be way too overwhelming for you at one time. That's all I'm saying. You don't want to overwhelm yourself while it's happening. You want to just start little by little, getting rid of things, getting rid of people that aren't supposed to be there. You know what I'm saying? So you don't feel claustrophobic. And that's really what I've been doing. And that's what I really suggest for you to do as well. Now, financially, okay, financially, we need to figure out, or you need to figure out, why are you doing what you're doing? Do you love what you're doing? Do you hate what you're doing? Do you see a deeper meaning to it? Can you see yourself doing it 10 years from now? Okay. It's not going to be a good time to jump ship during a retrograde, I'll tell you that. But you're going to think about it. Okay? What is your life's purpose? What are you meant to be doing? Okay? These things you need to reflect on, and you need to make a decision after the retrograde, okay? After. But you really need to look at your environment and be like, is this giving me the money I need to provide for my family, to provide for myself if you don't have a family? Um, am I happy here? Do I love the people that I'm working with? Do I hate them? Are they giving me negative vibes? These are things you have to reflect on. And you need to, well, you won't really be able to internalize all of these things when the retrograde hits. I just feel like you're going to be more vocal about it. So you better start getting things off your chest right now. Like writing it down, I mean, writing it down. Don't get violent. And just clearing your mind, clearing your energy of anything that's been bothering you, and just really focusing on how you can be better at your job, better in your career. What is the next step? Are you trying to be a manager? Are you trying to own a business? What are you really trying to do here? Really think about that this week. All right. Well, I don't want to like rant on for too long, because I think anything over 10 minutes in a podcast is like draining the life out of me. I don't know how people could talk for a whole hour. I'm not trying to throw shade, but I guess it sounds shady. I don't know how they can do it. Um but I will probably go on Instagram live and talk about it more in detail for people later on this week, or whenever the fuck I feel like it. I will see you guys next week. You guys can book a spiritual session with me at Zodianz.com. Oh, and I had a very successful time at my event. So I was really happy with it. I did man, I think I did like 20 readings back to back. It was pretty intense, but I love what I do. And hopefully you guys love what you do too. So I will talk to you guys next week, and we will go over it again. And have a good week at whatever you're doing. Okay, bye.